Greetings, YouTube. So I've been giving further thought to the whole grooming thing that the conservatives keep throwing at progressives that would like to actually educate people. And it occurred to me that the frame of reference they're coming from could explain why they think the way they think in this particular regard. Now, there are three modes when it comes to disciplining a child. And I'm not talking about direct punishment or something, but the concept of someone having discipline. And there is the high tolerance, low discipline. That's the classic or wild child. The kid can do anything they want, but they don't have the guidance they desperately need. Kids need structure. Okay? Then there is the high tolerance, high discipline, and that's the best model. The parents are very tolerant of their child exploring who they are and the world at large, fostering in them the fact that every kid is a natural scientist, but also imposing rules and order in their life, not stifling them, but letting them know that there are boundaries, and those boundaries are there not just to limit them, but to keep them safe. And that structure is what's going to help them stay on the straight and narrow and become the best version of themselves. Now, the last form of discipline structure, is low tolerance, high discipline. And that's social conservatism, where the parents have very little tolerance of any deviation from their particular worldview and a very high structure that they raise their child in. And for the most part, they tend to view their kids as blank slates upon which they can write. And they want to write themselves. They want their children to be them, to have all of the same ethical and moral codes that they carry. Even though I hesitate to really call what social conservatives endorse ethical or moral. But because of that, because they don't see their child as having anything from within, their children are not allowed to develop on their own. Their children are not allowed to be natural scientists. They are allowed to be very rigidly controlled. They are in this space, and they're never leaving that space. They're right here. There's no room to move. There's no sky above them. There they are. And they're not getting out. And everything that kid does, says, and thinks was given to them by their parents. So now stop and sit for a second and think about the progressive families that have the high tolerance, high discipline model, where their children are allowed to express themselves how they want to present themselves, their clothing, what kind of hobbies they engage in. They're allowed to explore their gender. They're allowed to explore their sexuality, because the parents understand that what someone's sexuality is doesn't matter as long as they're happy. How a person dresses and presents themselves in the world doesn't matter as long as they're happy. Fabric has no gender. Gender presentation is utterly constructed by us. And it doesn't matter what gender identity they have as long as it is genuine to them. Whether they're cisgender or transgender or an NB, doesn't matter. As long as they're happy and healthy, that's what's important. So when the conservative parents see that in a child, they are automatically going to think that that child's parents programmed them with that. That child's parents has forced them into believing they are something other than a cisgender heterosexual child who must abide by the strict gender codes of the world at large, and those heavily endorsed and reinforced and supported by social conservatives. So they see that child as the aberration created by that child's parents. Now, if you believed that, if that was the core tenet of your being, that this is where kids belong, and you're seeing kids doing this out there, just soaring, that's going to terrify you, because you see it as a threat to your child, who might see that and be infected by it, or educated in a healthy and well-balanced manner. So I don't endorse what the social conservatives are doing or believing. I don't endorse how they view the world. I firmly believe that social conservatism is a communicable disease that needs to be eradicated, that it is the greatest threat to our species that has ever existed. It is the foundation of all bigotry and discrimination and injustice in the world. But kind of thinking like this, understanding the rigidity of the social conservative view, and if their child is an exact reflection of them, then that child that is declaring that they're trans or queer or dressing in a way that the social conservatives, do not agree with, that has to be the product of the parents and not the genuine child that has suffered so badly at the hands of their parent. It's been revelatory to think about that, and horrifying, and saddening. And I gotta be honest, I don't know what you do with that.